Welcome back to The Explainer. So picture this. You're sitting there watching a massive blockbuster superhero movie, completely mind-blown by all the alternate timelines and parallel universes. And maybe you catch yourself wondering, क्या हमारे शास्त्रों में multiverse का concept पहले से था? Like, was the concept of the multiverse already present in our ancient scriptures? Well, buckle up, because today we're exploring a fascinating insight from ancient Indian texts that suggest these mind-bending, pop culture ideas actually existed thousands of years ago. We'll be looking at some incredible source material, including insights from author Akshat Gupta, who breaks down just how deeply embedded this stuff is in ancient philosophy.
So, think about it for a second. Is the multiverse merely a modern sci-fi imagination? Today, we're going to see how ancient philosophy and modern theories intersect in a way that is just wow. And the best part? To wrap our heads around this, we don't need to look at any complicated physics equations. We just need to look at a story.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. The Search for Ram's Ring. To understand the sheer cosmic scale of all this, let's look at a lesser-known but totally captivating story from the texts involving Lord Ram and his greatest devotee, Hanuman. According to the source material, here is the setup. Lord Ram's time on Earth is drawing to a close, and he needs to return to Vaikuntha, his heavenly abode. The problem? Hanuman. Hanuman loves Lord Ram so incredibly much that he absolutely refuses to let him leave. I mean, he's basically guarding him. So to distract Hanuman, Lord Ram deliberately slips his ring off his finger and drops it down into this deep, deep crack in the earth. He turns to Hanuman and says, "Hey, could you go down and fetch that for me?"
Now, Hanuman, being forever eager to serve, agrees in a heartbeat. He actually shrinks his massive body down into this tiny, microscopic form just so he can squeeze into the crack. And he goes journeying deeper and deeper, passing through the literal layers of the world, all the way down into Patal, the underworld. He is on a completely single-minded mission to get his Lord's ring back.
Which brings us to Section 2, Sheshnag and the Mountain of Rings.
So Hanuman gets all the way down to the underworld, and right when you think he's just going to pick up the ring and leave, boom, plot twist. Instead of the ring, he runs into Sheshnag, the mighty king of serpents who literally supports the universe. Sheshnag looks down at this tiny monkey god and asks, "What are you doing down here, Hanuman?" Hanuman, super earnest as always, explains. He says, "My Lord Ram dropped his ring down a crack in the earth, and I've come all this way down to find it for him."
Hearing this, Sheshnag just bursts out laughing. Hanuman is understandably confused, right? But then Sheshnag reveals this massive cosmic secret. He says, Ram always tricks you like this when he needs to return to Vaikuntha. He explains that, look, by the time Hanuman travels all the way down into the underworld, Lord Ram has already left the earthly realm.
But here's where the story shifts from just a clever little trick into a profound revelation about the actual fabric of reality. Hanuman turns around to look where the ring supposedly fell, and what does he see? He doesn't just see one ring, no. He sees an entire mountain made of identical rings. Just let the gravity of that sink in for a second. A literal mountain of the exact same ring. This proves that this exact event, Ram dropping the ring and Hanuman coming down to find it, has happened an infinite number of times across infinite realities.
Let's unpack that a bit more in Section 3, the ice cream cone of the multiverse.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how author Akshat Gupta breaks down the grand philosophical framework behind the myth. He uses a brilliant, everyday analogy, an ice cream cone. Think of the wide open top of the cone as representing infinite different worlds, infinite timelines, infinite versions of Hanuman. But, as all those different Hanumans travel down into the underworld to find that ring, their realities funnel downwards, converging at the very bottom, the narrow tip of the cone. That single point in space and time is why there's a mountain of rings waiting there. It's just such an elegant way to visualize multiple converging timelines.
And that flows perfectly into Section 4, the Damru, infinity, and cyclical time.
To really grasp this ancient multiverse, we have to fundamentally rethink time. In the Western world, time is usually seen as a straight line, right? A beginning, a middle, and an end. But in these scriptures, time operates completely differently to support this infinite loop. It's broken down into grand, sweeping epics called yugas. It goes from Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga, then Dwapar Yuga, and finally Kali Yuga. But here is the secret. The whole shebang doesn't just end after Kali Yuga. It loops straight back around to Satya Yuga to start all over again. So the crucial point is what this loop looks like visually.
If you map out the progression of the 4 yugas and then snap that timeline from the end of Kali Yuga directly back to the start of Satya Yuga, it creates a very specific geometric shape, pinched in the middle, wide at the ends. It creates the exact shape of a Damru, the traditional two-headed drum held by Lord Shiva.
And this brilliantly illustrates something super profound about time. Check this out. If you take a Damru and spin it rapidly back and forth in your hand, the edges blur together, right? They form the symbol of infinity, representing this endless, continuous loop of the whole universe. But if you take that exact same Damru shape and stand it upright on a table, it becomes an hourglass. Suddenly, it's measuring the finite, ticking time of a single yuga.
Let's zoom in on that hourglass idea for a second. Inside, the sand represents time. It falls steadily from top to bottom until eventually the top half is completely empty. That marks the end of a cycle, the end of a yuga. But it isn't over forever. What do you do with an empty hourglass? You just flip it over. The sand is back at the top and the timeline perfectly, seamlessly restarts.
When you pull all this source material together, the grand takeaway is honestly pretty staggering. It means everything we are experiencing right now has already happened before, and it will happen again. The author uses this fantastic analogy of a chess game. During the game, pieces move around, they get captured, they come off the board. But when the game's done, you don't throw the pieces in the trash. You put them back in the box. And for the next game, the pieces are completely reset, ready to play their exact roles all over again. Lord Ram, Lord Christian, all these historical events, they are on an infinite cyclical reset loop.
Which leaves us with a truly wild, mind-bending thought to wrap up today's explainer. If these ancient scriptures had it right, if time really is a spinning Damru, an endless multiverse where the pieces are continuously reset to play again, then in the next infinite cycle of time, who will you be? Will you be playing this exact same role, or will the cosmic chessboard put you somewhere completely new? I hope this deep dive sparked your curiosity to look a little closer at the ancient wisdom hiding right in plain sight. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and hey, keep questioning the universe.